And welcome back, students. Today, let's discuss the superconstructor as part of our inheritance basics. So getting started, we can invoke a constructor of the base class within the definition of a derived class in a constructor. Now, a constructor for a derived class uses a constructor from the base class in a special way. Now, that constructor for the base class normally initializes all the data inherited from the base class. So a constructor for a derived class begins with the invocation of a constructor for the base class. Right, and this is done with the superconstructor. We've actually seen the superconstructor in action. So there is a special syntax for invoking the base class constructor as illustrated by the constructor definitions for the class hourly employee. In what follows, we have reproduced the beginning of one of the constructor definitions for the class hourly employee taken from that display. Public hourly employee string, the name, date, the date, double the wage rate, double the hours. Super, the name, the date, if wage rate is greater than or equal to 0 and the hours is greater than or equal to 0. Wage rate equals the wage rate, and hours equals the hours, else ... Right, now, you'll notice that we have a line which is super, the name, the date, and that is a call to a constructor for the base class, which in this case is a call to the constructor for the class employee. Now, we've actually seen this and kind of made our own constructors up to this point, so it's nothing really kind of new, but now we can actually understand fully what the super constructor is doing. Now, remember, we use superconstructors when we want to use a constructor from the base class in our derived class. So like when we made our commissioned employee, we made a super call for that. Now there are restrictions on how you can use the base class constructor call super. So for example, you cannot use an instance variable as an argument to super. And the call to the base class constructor super must always be the first action taken within the constructor definition. You cannot use it later within the definition of constructor. So whenever you start that, what's the first thing you should see inside of that constructor method? The super call. You'll notice also that the keyword super is used to call the constructor of the base class. You do not use the name of the constructor. So for example, employee, the name, the date. That's illegal. If a constructor definition for a derived class does not include an invocation of constructor for the base class, then the no argument or no arg constructor of the base class is automatically invoked as the first action of the derived class constructor. And this is why, remember how we talked about sometimes you get away without doing no args? This is one of those reasons like, why is it good to have a no arg constructor? Well, if you have a super constructor that asks for a no arg parameter, it's going to want to invoke that. So the following definition of the no arg constructor for the class hourly employee with super omitted is equivalent to the version we gave an hourly employee. Public hourly employee, wage rate equals 0, hours equals 0. A derived class object has all the instance variables of the base class. These inherited instance variables should be initialized, and the base class constructor is the most convenient place to initialize these inherited instance variables. That's why you should always include a call to one of the base class constructors when you define a constructor for a derived class. As already noted, if you do not include a call to a base class constructor using super, then the no argument constructor of the base class is called automatically. If there is no argument constructor for the base class, that is an error condition, which I've already mentioned. If you don't have it, it causes errors. So if you're going to be using super calls, make sure you have the no arg constructor in that previous class. Now, call to a base class constructor within the definition of a constructor for a class. You can use the super constructor as a name for a constructor of the base class. Any invocation of super must be the first action taken by the constructor. So, for example, here we have public salaried employee original object, super original object, which is an invocation of the base class, and constructor. So therefore, salary is equal to original object.salary. All right, and that's going to wrap it up for today, folks. So kind of a quick, easy one, just kind of explains what the super constructor is. So we will see you next time.